We can ask productive. Productive. So who's going to define productive? That would, oh, it's you? You're going to define the word productive? Generally, I don't like to mix Tolkien and politics. I don't like to make things dependent on my political point of view when it comes to literature. But when something is so egregiously vapid, where the finger painting class for my kindergartner has more authenticity to it than this does, I can't let it go. I just can't let it go. So this article right here, this is by Anna Smol, the professor of English literature at Mount St. Vincent University. And this entire article is written from a point of view where the politics, her politics, not mine, not Tolkien's, her politics inform everything that she says about Tolkien, everything. And you know how you can know that right away? It's really easy. Well, the first one is that first sentence, right? Where Amazon's Prime billion-dollar production of The Lord of the Rings has been targeted with a flood of racist and misogynist abuse online. But then secondly, you can start seeing right away that she talks about the far right. It's the far right backlash. So I thought, let's see, how many times does she say far right? Let's see, there's one up here, right there. Then we got another one right here, and then we can find another one, down there, and there's another one there. There's another one there, another one there, another one there, another one there. So we've got 7 total far right comments in this article already. She is taking her political point of view and saying, if you don't agree with Tolkien, then you are far right. So let's dive into that just a little bit. I don't want to make this too long because there honestly isn't much here. It's just, it's empty of actual thought. So let's take a look. In this third paragraph right here, she first says that they discuss, these hosts of the podcast discuss how online fascists use mass media to harness blockbuster cultural productions, as in the far-right backlash to Amazon's Rings of Power series. What's hilarious about this is that nobody did anything to harness any blockbuster cultural production for a political point of view. It's Amazon who did that first, because what they decided to do is to change the actual Tolkien characters, to change who they were to suit their desires, to have their political point of view be more important than what Tolkien actually wrote. So to call someone who disagrees with Amazon as somebody who is using mass media to harness blockbuster cultural productions in a war against that? No. If Amazon starts it, if you're the ones that are, when it's kind of like saying we're going to invade this territory and start changing it, and then when the owners of that territory or the ones who were there first decide, you know what? I don't like you invading my territory and changing the rivers and moving the mountains and building your god-awful modern structures in it, then you have a right to go in and defend that territory. And that's exactly what Amazon is doing. So don't tell me that your mass market cultural production is being used by fascists online. And first of all, I don't think you understand what fascism is. If you're saying that fans of Tolkien are fascist for simply saying that they are in love with the original lore, with the original characters, with the original stories that he wrote, you have no clue, right? Intellectual vapidity, intellectual emptiness. It's a complete vacuum inside their thought processes. If they don't understand that fascism means we want to force you to do things the way that they're supposed to be, nobody's forcing anybody. We're just talking back. We're telling you this is dumb, this is stupid. But when it comes to proper ways of approaching Tolkien, you can't say that we're going to go in and change everything. Oh, but you're the ones that are starting the war. And then she decides to throw up straw man arguments from the get-go, right here. She talks about how long before the first episode aired on September 1st, some commenters condemned the show because they assumed it would be faithful to the lore, meaning the text Tolkien's wrote. There is no such thing as a faithful adaptation in all details. Oh, I see how you throw that in all details right there. You threw that in there because that gives you license to say that what we're saying is you have to be faithful in every single detail. No. If you watch any of my reviews, being faithful means not changing characters, understanding the world, creating actual distance between physical places so they're not walking 40 leagues in 3 seconds. You have to be faithful in the big things. And Amazon and people who are defending it, they know this, but they're ignoring it. And so what she has to throw in there is in all details. Nobody is arguing you have to be faithful in all details. Even the people who loved Peter Jackson's movie and find it the best possible representation of the Lord of the Rings. They know it's not faithful in all the details. That's not possible, and we understand that, but you throw that in there. So again, intellectual vapidity. You're not going to convince anybody when you are essentially creating an argument out of nothing. But that's not the biggest gap into her intellectual rigor. The biggest issue lies in that she actually says she wants to have a discussion with people, that we can have discussions based on actual creative differences. And that's not to say, right, there are a ton of other things in this article that I would go over, which is her defense of Galadriel and how for the Rings of Power, much has to be invented, and nobody's complaining about inventions. We're complaining about really plenty of changes. Sure, some of those inventions aren't just plain stupid and it's badly written, but we're talking about actual changes to the character, not additions. And then she talks about how we cannot know Tolkien, the same argument that the showrunners J.D. Payne and Patrick McKay used when they say, well, Tolkien didn't write that Galadriel never went to Numenor. Well, he also never wrote that Galadriel carried a bazooka when she decided to take over Lindon from the orcs that were marrying the dwarves. Just because he didn't write it doesn't mean you can't say it. So anyway, here's the biggest issue is she actually says that she wants to have a discussion, right? She's a literature scholar who has studied Tolkien's fiction and scholarly writings. She encourages discussions of adaptations to gain a better understanding of how they respond to Tolkien's works and the world we live in today. So she encourages she wants to have a discussion with people she disagrees with. But here's the rub. Here's the rub with anyone who starts following this woke left crap ideology that decides that we're going to name you first, and if you're one of those names that we're not allowed to talk to, we simply won't talk to you. So here's what she said, right? We already talked about that she has a far right mentality. Everything is far right. If it's wrong, it's fascist, right? She doesn't even understand what fascism is if she's using fascist and far right in this level, but I can't go into that discussion here. So she says she wants to have this discussion, right? But right away, she blames the far-right commenters have tried to shut down any discussion of a new retelling that is not to her liking. Hey, let me be the first one to say, I would happily talk to somebody who disagrees with me on Tolkien and have a discussion about it. And we don't have to argue. We can get together and we can talk about our differences. And instead of saying, like, trying to prove that our differences are right, let's have a discussion and let's look for clarity rather than agreement. We will make clear where we differ, and one of us is right and one of us is wrong, and we'll let people decide. So we can have that discussion. I would happily talk to anyone who believes this drivel. Oh, I won't say that to your face maybe, but who believes this unique modern perspective. So she talks about how, we're the ones, anyone who dislikes Tolkien, because far right to her is a euphemism for someone who dislikes this representation of Tolkien. So anyone who dislikes this representation of Tolkien is shutting down any discussion, right? So we're the ones shutting it down. But let's go down a little bit further and let's see where she says that legitimate literary discussion, therefore, is threatened with being overwhelmed by intimidation and disinformation. So again, we can't have legitimate literary discussion, right? Because it's done with disinformation, the magic word of 2021 and 2022, disinformation. So we're the ones who disagree with how you're changing Tolkien. We're the ones channeling, trafficking, and disinformation. Bull. We have done nothing to change Tolkien. Our information actually comes from a place that understands Tolkien, that respects Tolkien, that looks to his works as the basis for what you should actually subcreate in. So no, we're not the ones shutting down discussion again. So she doubles down on the whole idea that anyone who disagrees with how Amazon is reflecting the world is shutting down the discussion. So she goes on to talk about the popular misconceptions, much has to be invented. What did Tolkien think? Oh, Tolkien was in it for the cash, which I'm not even gonna get into here. She's like to pull that quote about cash or art, clearly it disregards the letter right above it. So I'm not gonna get into that. But let's get to the last couple of paragraphs, because in these last couple of paragraphs, right, she writes, she tries to take the high ground again. Tolkien is not above negative criticism. Neither is any adaptation. We can ask productive. Productive. So who's going to define productive? It's you? You're going to define the word productive? Okay. So we can ask productive questions about the purpose and methods of adaptation and the corporation funding it. The corporation. Tolkien readers hold a broad range of views, and they won't all agree when discussing the creative choices in this particular adaptation. No, really? We won't all agree? Okay, well then let's have a discussion. But wait, let's read this final paragraph. but prejudging it based on far-right talking points. So right. So those of us who are apparently far-right and fascist for saying Galadriel wasn't the commander of the Northern armies, for saying that Durin was never married to somebody named Disa that we know of, for saying that the dwarves weren't watching over the humans in the Southlands for 1,000 years, for saying that Tarmiriel, or Miriel, was never actually the leader of Numenor, for saying Halbrand wasn't a character that ever existed and drove Galadriel into the person that she ultimately apparently ends up being, for saying that a magic volcano built from water from a stupid sword key that turns a lockbox to open a spillway into some fun. It's just like, we're the ones who are prejudging. Oh, really? We've seen all this and we continue to judge appropriately. So, but prejudging it based on far right talking points, and those are far right. Apparently when you come from Tolkien's world, that's far right. The talking points harms people. We need to save our pity for the orcs, right? Yeah. No, that's episode 7. That's what Miriel says to Galadriel. We need to save our pity for the orcs. Now go look for it. Seriously, that's what she says. Save our pity for the orcs, right? So it harms people. The way we judge Tolkien and Amazon, it harms people. It weakens our democratic social discourse. It weakens it. I'd love to see those places where our discussions of how Tolkien is improperly being adapted by Amazon and changing actually what he wrote and creating something incredibly bad right now, that weakens our democratic social discourse. And it will not lead to a better understanding of adaptation. Oh, it won't? Let's read all her examples. They're right there in that space. Those are all her examples of how it will not lead to a better understanding, right? Intellectually vapid. There is nothing here in this article. Her brain is empty because all she thinks about is how, if you dislike this because you think Galadriel wasn't a masterful warrior, if you dislike this because you don't think that cramming in together every race into a small migratory band of people that, according to the last episode, has been together 1,000 years, but somehow you still have fully different ethnic groups within this one hobbit group. She's a completely empty vessel who is spouting the talking points that she's been taught that are most important in her social sciences, in her English literature classes. And I know this because I have an English literature degree and I went to a public college and I got the same sort of messages. So I know that she's spouting the same sorts of things that she's supposed to spout in her position as an English professor at this university. But she must, she wants to engage in discussion. So let's leave it at this. She wants to engage in discussion with people like me, with people like you, with people like the Critical Drinker or Nerdrotic or people who are against us, where she wants to engage in the Wait, no. She wants to draw the line at engaging with racist and misogynist disinformation and abuse. Oh, the magic word again, disinformation. So, she wants to engage in discussion unless we disagree with her and Amazon and how they're portraying these people. Because if we disagree with her, that means we are by default far right, fascist, racist, misogynist, right? We cannot disagree without having that somewhere in the back of our heads. It's impossible for someone like me who disagrees with how Amazon has created Tolkien's world to not be racist and misogynist just because we disagree. Everything to her is from a political far-right perspective, meaning that she sees everything that doesn't match her worldview as fascist and far-right, as misogynist, as racist, as what other ism we can throw into this situation. But we know she wants to discuss with people who believe the same thing that she does. That's the takeaway, right? She won't discuss with someone who disagrees. As long as we agree on pretty much everything, then let's talk. She won't talk with anyone. And if anyone wants to talk, if anyone wants to have a discussion, I would happily record it. I'll live stream it. I can put it online. We can record it. I could even let you have it and review it. We'll see. But I would love to have a discussion with somebody who disagrees with me on why they're doing what they're doing and come to a place of clarity. We don't have to agree on it, but we can at least try to understand each other. That's a good place to start, right? Feel free to do that. Twitter is @Torque, right? Just direct message me there or email me at jonathan@theonering.com. I'd love to have that discussion, but she's not willing to have it with me. I know she will never, ever, ever contact me because I disagree with how Galadriel's portrayed, so I'm automatically a misogynist, right? So she's not allowed to have that discussion with me. Anyway, those are my thoughts. Put yours below. Thanks for staying. Thanks for listening me rant a little bit this time. It's not my usual MO here on The One Ring, but maybe we'll see more of it because I have a feeling this kind of sorry, it's not going away. It's going to stick around a while. So we're going to continue calling it out where it is. And if you want, hey, I'm just going to throw it out there, theonering.com/patron. We have a private Discord channel with chats and message boards, and we have an extended podcast being released. We hope you join us there. It's $4 a month. First month is free. And it's a lot of fun. We have some good discussions about these changes, these slight details that are being modified in the Rings of Power and other Tolkien adaptations. So I hope you join us there at theonering.com/patron. Thanks for listening.